Gather around, children. Gather around. And let me tell you the story of the man who started this entire cinematic universe, Kevin Feige. It all began with a man who was in a cave with a box of scraps.
On that flying thing. Getting snow blind games. Pikachu, Chickapoo, in the world. Gotta heat on the phone string. Tear your world apart. Once the magic starts. Do you really wanna taste it? What's going on must come down. Do you really wanna taste it? Baby, you're losing ground. Just let me come to me.
Hey guys, Movie Fan 2002 here, and I'm here today to review the latest film of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Thor: Love and Thunder, the fourth solo Thor film in this franchise. Yes, you heard me correctly. This is the first time that an MCU hero got his fourth solo movie. Now, yes, Avengers Endgame is technically a fourth film with the Avengers, but to be fair, that film was meant to be more of the second part of the finale to the Infinity Saga. This film is more of like a fourth film for Thor's solo adventures. Okay, but anyways, so Thor: Love and Thunder is obviously set after Avengers Endgame, and believe it or not, actually before the event of Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, where Thor is now like hanging out with the Guardians. He's like fighting around, and yet he's realizing that he's missing something in life. Even though he doesn't want to admit it, he does feel a little bit lost without his loved one, that being Jane Foster. Anyways, things get much more darker for the gods when it turns out that when he sees a distress signal from Lady Sif. Thank goodness she did not die this time. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to spoil that. That's the only thing I'll spoil here, so the rest is spoiler free. Don't worry. Sorry about that. Anyways, after receiving the distress signal, turns out that this man of the name of Gore, the God Butcher, is planning about killing all the gods in revenge against what he did like thousands of years ago. So, now it's up to both Valkyrie, Korg, and believe it or not, Jane Foster, who now wields the power of of Thor's hammer, now repaired in order to go on a mission to assemble many gods in order to stop Gore before he can kill all the gods in the universe. That's all I'm going to say without going into spoiler territory. Now, I'm not going to lie. At first, when I first heard about this movie, I was not pleased. I mean, what? A Thor 4? Ragnarok was the closure. I thought Ragnarok was the closure for the Thor films, at least for his solo outings. And besides, Thor was now joining the Guardians of the Galaxy as shown at the end of Avengers Endgame. Now you think the best thing to do is just bring him back on his solo adventures? That's outrageous! However, when I heard more and more and more about the movie, my doubts actually went away, and I actually got excited to watch it. First off, once again, Taika Waititi is back to direct the film. Thank God, because obviously he nailed it with Thor Ragnarok, so I think he can make lightning strike twice with this film. No pun intended, by the way. But what was getting me even more surprising is that they were taking the mighty Thor elements from the comics and putting it into the MCU. Yes, Jane Foster is now putting on the mantle of Mighty Thor. And obviously, I was getting excited. And on top of that, they were getting Christian Bale to play the villain here. I was like, oh my god, they're getting Nolan's Dark Knight to be an MCU villain? Yeah. So obviously, I was excited for the film for when it came out. And yes, not even reviews stopped me from going into this film. Pretty looking forward to it. So, after seeing the movie, what did I think of it? It's not as good as Thor Ragnarok, but it is definitely better than the first two, even though I do like the first one in my opinion. I'll express some of my issues later, but right now, let's start off with my pros. And trust me, I have a lot of pros. First off, the acting in this movie is great from everybody. I'll save the two standouts for a little bit. Anyways, first off, you have Chris Hemsworth, who's just great as Thor, again. Yeah, Chris Hemsworth is definitely a fantastic portrayal of the character. And I feel like ever since, I did like him in the first film and in the first Avengers, but honestly, but I feel like with Dark World and maybe some parts of Age of Ultron, he didn't came off as interesting. Again, when Taika Waititi came on board, that's when I enjoyed him in both, in Ragnarok, Infinity War, Endgame, and now in this film. This film pretty much brought him back to his more powered up roots than in Endgame. Although, to be fair, in that film, he was more in a depressed state after failing to save the universe from pretty much their greatest threat at the time. I really liked Thor's arc throughout this film. Although, to be fair, it did take me a little bit of thought for me to realize it. But yeah, Thor's arc was actually handled not that bad in this movie. And I really understand, like, even after he got back into shape and like joining up with the Guardians, he realized that he still has a lot in his life that he's still paying for. And also, and I actually now understand why, like, Thor's still going to be around much longer. Like, they still want him to, and it works very well, which is one of the main reasons he did not die at the end of Avengers Endgame. I'll explain more about it, but unfortunately it would go into spoiler territory, so I'm not going to. Of course, Tessa Thompson's also great as Valkyrie, which, although she's not in the movie as much as she was in Ragnarok, she definitely had a lot more screen time in here than in Avengers Endgame. Although, to be fair, in that film was mainly focuses on the main Avengers because it was their finale, especially with Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. Why else I'm wearing this shirt right now? But either way, I still thought she did an excellent job in the movie, and I really appreciate that. Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. But what about me, Korg? Are you not gonna forget about me? Sorry, I forgot about that. But of course, Korg is also hilarious in here. Yes, he had so many great moments. And also, there will be a moment in the film that will make my brother pretty much pleased. And by the way, I am planning on seeing it again, so when I do see it again, I can't wait to turn at my brother's face, and then he's gonna just go nuts when he sees that moment. I'm not gonna say what it is because, unfortunately, it actually happens near the end of the film. So I'm just gonna keep my mouth sealed. But I'm just happy that the MCU is finally going in that route now. With both Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, now this film. Russell Crowe was also good in the movie, and I thought he was great with his performance, but as Zeus, and we'll get more on Zeus on his character later, but when it comes to his performance, I thought he did a pretty good job. Although, they're not as good as the two standout actors of the film. And those are Natalie Portman and Christian Bale. Natalie Portman as Jane Foster was just excellent. And I just loved her throughout this film. Of course, not only does she look damn hot, but she really brought a lot of portrayal with her persona. And I really understand what she's going through, and you do feel her pain. But of course, it's Gore, played by Christian Bale, who nailed it. His creep, his makeup, his costuming, his design. Oh man, it's just so creepy, and I just get terrified when watching the film. Yeah, yeah. I'll go more into his character in a bit, but for when it comes to his acting, he was amazing in the movie, and I just love it. But enough about the acting. What about the visuals? How are they in comparison to Ragnarok? Actually, they actually are pretty great. In fact, it's actually one of the couple of things I will admit that this film did a little bit better than Ragnarok, because believe it or not, the visuals are just amazing in this movie. Now, to be fair, all the Thor films have amazing visual effects, but this one still looks very good, and especially that it knows when to be bright and colorful and very dark. Heck, there's even one part of the movie where they're on a dark planet and everything's in black and white. The only times when it goes into color is like when they're using their powers, and I thought that was pretty cool. And by the way, that's not a spoiler because they showed that in the trailer. So, although it would have been a lot cooler if they actually just saved it for the movie. Yeah. And speaking of which, this also leads to so many cool action sequences in the film. I would say my favorite was shown in the trailers was pretty much the one at the start, but truly, I think the best ones are like the final two action sequences. They were fun to watch. Granted, the final battle wasn't as awesome as the one in Thor Ragnarok, but it was still nice for what it was. As for the story, while it isn't the best story I've ever heard in an MCU film, nor the best story ever told for a movie, it wasn't that bad for what it was. Yes, it is pretty much goofy, and it is pretty much more somewhat of a rescue-ish mission film, while also saving the world or saving the species plotline. But for what it did, it wasn't told that bad. As for the comedy in this movie, honestly, I still found it to be pretty funny, although not as funny as Ragnarok. But I will say, when it is funny, it is pretty funny. Although, there were some jokes in the film that did kind of got me a bit agitated. I hate to go into my negatives now, but if I have to discuss one of them right now, is that some of the jokes in the movie really got me agitated. And just like, ugh, really? Yeah, I even either rolled my eyes or just had a big groan. Okay, I didn't like groan very loud, but it was just kind of insulting in my opinion. But then again, it only happens like every once in a while. Other than that, though, this is still a pretty funny movie, even if Ragnarok is funnier. Yeah. Yes. Another thing I also like is that there is some heart put into the film, and while it isn't like the strongest heartfelt emotional moments I've seen in an MCU film, they are still pretty nice. And there was at least one or two moments in the film that did at least gave me a tear off my eye. Just a tear. Although, it was still a pretty strong moment for what it was. Now, and lastly, we have the characters. Now, I already mentioned some of them when I was talking about the performances, but now here are they, like, in terms of them in the movie. Well, of course, Thor is, like, greatly written as always, because, again, like, ever since Taika Waititi came into these films, like, I grew to care about them. Like I said, I just love Jane Foster in this film. I just love how, like, despite, like, she keeps fighting and keeps going, despite the fact that people are telling him, like, you should just stop. Which works really well, and it kind of gets me. You can understand that, because we can kind of relate to that. Korg is so funny as always. Unfortunately, Meek isn't in the movie that much. He only appears in the film in a couple of scenes, which is kind of sad, because I wish we got more of them. Valkyrie is still pretty good, like I said, but of course, it's Gore who's the standout in this film. I mean, I just love what he goes through in this movie, and you just feel for him. Like, in fact, Gore is actually a lot better than Hela, in my opinion. I mean, while Hela is a great villain, I think Gore is a lot better because you feel for the emotion he's going through in this film. In fact, his death is actually pretty sad in the movie, and I actually felt bad for that. In actuality, he's like one of those mortals when they're like begging for the gods to help, but the gods don't really help at all. Like back during those ancient times, and when watching the film, I just pretty much felt bad for him, and I nearly got choked up. Yeah, he's definitely an S tier MCU villain. Definitely right up there with Thanos, Loki, Killmonger, and just recently Norman Osborn. Yeah, I know it was pretty much the same Norman Osborn from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man film, the first one, but so because he was in No Way Home, he counts. Yeah. Oh, and there is one more thing I forgot not to mention is that the locations that they go to in this film look amazing. I already mentioned the Dark Planet, but I also forgot to mention like they go to like completely other planets, like the one where the Guardians were at the start of the film. There's a small winter planet, although they're not there that much. But the two big ones that I think are like the standouts are like our new Asgard, which got a massive upgrade now in comparison to Avengers Endgame, where now it's like a big tourist place where you can go there and try some pretty cool stuff. I wish that's real. I mean, I want to try an infinity cone if I were that. That and also the Palladian City. I think that's what it's called. I mean, the city where they go to see Zeus. Yeah, that place looks amazing. Oh, and one more thing. Remember Kat Dennings' character from the first two films? Thank goodness he's not in the movie that much, because he only appears in one scene again. Wait, what is her name again? Oh, her name's Darcy. Wait a minute. I didn't mean to say...
Why, hello there.
Not on our watch. Not again. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, like, I'm actually glad that the Guardians also did not have that much screen time as well. That way, they're setting up for Volume 3. So, that way, kind of like what they did with No Way Home, where Doctor Strange wasn't in the movie that much. But, like I said before, this movie wasn't as great as Thor Ragnarok, and I have to address some of the issues that I have with this film. I don't have that many, but they are still to be addressed. And don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything. First things first, and is that the first problem that I have with this film is actually Zeus. Now, like I said, Zeus was pretty funny in the movie, but... Okay, no, scratch that. Russell Crowe did a great performance, but honestly, Zeus came off as way too comedic in this film. Now, yes, I get what they were trying to do. But they're trying to make him a more comedic character to make the audience laugh. And while he did try to get me laughing, the problem is that I saw less of Marvel's version of Zeus, of a Grandmaster 2.0, and we know that wasn't going to happen. I mean, you can't copy the Grandmaster, you can't copy Jeff Goldblum, you cannot even copy Jeff Goldblum. Yeah. And also, he just comes off as just one note and one dimensional. Plus, also, so he just comes off as way too goofy in the movie, he was getting on my nerves. Plus, the scene that they're with him lasted way too long. It lasted like 10 minutes, and it was like wasting like a good chunk of the film. Okay, we get it now. Can we at least wrap the scene up so we can get back to them trying to find a way to like to stop Gore before he kills all the gods? You're wasting time, Thor. Another problem that I have with this film is that sometimes, and now this is at times, the comedy and the serious tones can go all over the place, where one moment they're doing a comedic and funny moment, and the next minute they're really serious, and it goes a bit off all over the place. Now, it's not all the time, but there's like a few times in the film where it does, and it just comes off as completely unnecessary. That and some jokes in the movie, like I said before, were kind of annoying. Possibly the biggest one being the screaming goats. Now, the first few times they did it, I thought they were hilarious. But when they kept doing it, the more it was like... I mean, I'll give it this. I mean, it was useful when it came in handy for when they got to the Olympian city and went to get to Gore's planet. But other than that, I wasn't all that big of a fan of it. That and another issue that I have with this film is that there was... Oh, by the way, going back to my pros for a minute, I forgot to mention, the soundtrack in this movie was really great. But there was a bit of a missed opportunity with it because they missed one song that I was so hoping that there would be in this film, especially possibly during the climax, but it wasn't in the movie. What song was it? Why, none other. I was hoping for Thunderstruck to be in this film. And was Thunderstruck in the movie? No. Which disappointed me. I mean, this is the god of thunder we're talking about here. Thor. He should have had that song. But nope. What a waste. While the pacing was smooth throughout the feature and there was not a moment it felt rushed, I wish the movie was a little bit longer. Like, at least 5 minutes longer. 5 minutes longer. I mean, because unlike Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, this film at least didn't have to be way too long. At least a few more extra minutes would have at least helped. Then also, Gore didn't get that much screen time in the movie. I mean, throughout the entire film, Gore had 30 minutes of screen time. Don't get me wrong though, the scenes were handled very well, but I just wish we got more of him in the movie. It's just my opinion. I mean, when you see the film, you'll know what I'm talking about. And the last thing I wasn't really a fan of in this movie was that, honestly, well, I wish the final battle did include a few more characters involved. I just wish so. I was hoping that at least during the climax, the Guardians would team up, would come in, and then help take them down. That would have been pretty cool to see. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to spoil it or anything, because I wasn't even going any further, but it just made me feel a little bit disappointed. It would have been great to at least see them, appear at the beginning and at the end. But besides those flaws, I still thought Thor: Love and Thunder was a great movie. Yes, not as great as Ragnarok, and I still think in terms of my favorite MCU films of the year, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness does win. But I still had an awesome time at the movie, and I would lie if I say I was with the critics and fans who did not like this film on this one. So yeah, all in all, what a great fourth outing for Thor. And I hope this is his last solo outing, because I feel like he's more better with ensemble films, like the remaining time he has. Although, if they do make a fifth one, let's hope they can at least make it good. So yeah, way to go, Thor, on your fourth round. Not so bad if you ask me. Thor: Love and Thunder gets a 9 out of 10. It had some issues, but I still had a great time with this film regardless. Okay, that's going to be my review for Thor: Love and Thunder. Enjoyed this review. Feel free to share your thoughts on the movie down below in the comments. Did you like it? Did you hate it? And what is your favorite moment with Thor in the MCU? Please let me know. And if you would like to stay tuned for more videos on this channel, then hit that subscribe button below. And until the next video comes, peace and take care.
Let's see who you are. I take off your disguise. And flick! Oh, flick too hard, damn it!